It is the soul declaring, I walk in one direction, and I will not be moved by appearance, emotion, or delay. Discipline is not the prison of the spirit, it is its liberation, for only the disciplined soul can be truly free. In spiritual law, nothing unfolds without order. Chaos is an illusion. Even what appears as disruption is under divine intelligence. So when one seeks to manifest their desire to call forth abundance, healing, love, or peace, discipline becomes the sacred architecture that holds the invisible in place until it becomes visible. Just as you would not build a temple on shifting sand, neither can you build a dream without structure. Discipline is that structure. You may affirm, I am prosperous, but if your thoughts scatter into fear by noon and your actions contradict your belief by evening, you are not following law. You are dancing around it. Discipline, then, is not merely repetition, but reverence. It is the soul honoring the truth so fully that it will not waver, no matter how loud the world becomes. The one who is disciplined in their word, in their thought, in their action becomes a force, unmoved, untroubled, undeterred. Many imagine that spiritual growth is emotional, even erratic, that it comes in flashes of insight, in rare moments of divine visitation. But in truth, the spiritual path is one of holy repetition, of returning to truth again and again until it roots itself in the soil of your being. The laws of the universe do not respond to dramatic flair, but to faithful alignment. It is not how loudly you speak your truth, but how steadily you walk in it. The disciplined soul does not need to be perfect. They only need to be anchored. They may tremble, but they do not turn back. Their strength is not in resistance, but in consistency. Discipline is the daily prayer that is not always spoken aloud. It is the decision to rise at the appointed time to complete the task set before you, to feed the inner flame when the world is cold. It is sacred duty, performed in invisible spaces. And so, when you force yourself into discipline, you are not engaging in warfare with your nature. You are reclaiming your divine inheritance. You are choosing the higher order over momentary mood. You are remembering that you are not a creature of whim, but of will, divine will, creative will, the same will that spoke the cosmos into form. The law respects the disciplined because the disciplined respect the law. A child of the spirit who is undisciplined often feels tossed by emotion, by reaction, by delay. They leap toward inspiration but fall away in fatigue. They chase the next new truth while abandoning the last one still waiting to blossom. But the soul who embraces discipline, even gently, begins to taste a different life. Results become regular. Energy increases, clarity dawns. The law responds not because the soul is striving, but because it is finally stable. When you do what you said you would do, not once, but again and again, you build spiritual power. You become trustworthy to yourself, and in that trust, divine doors begin to open. Discipline is the inner yes that continues long after the mood has passed. It is the quiet vow made between you and the unseen, honored in the private moments where no applause is heard. This is where true magic occurs, not in the occasional flash, but in the steady flame your words and deeds must agree the spoken word is a wand of power. It is not idle breath. It is a creative force, a decree sent forth into the invisible with the command to return fulfilled. Yet the spoken word alone is not enough, for words without matching deeds are like seeds cast upon stone full of life, yet unable to take root. To speak truth while acting in contradiction to it is to divide the self, and the divided self cannot manifest wholeness. There is no creative power in mere repetition. Words, no matter how poetic or affirming, carry no spiritual weight if they are hollow, if they are not upheld by the life behind them. When you say, I walk by faith, and then step in fear, you cancel the very vibration you intended to send. When you affirm, all that is mine by divine right now comes to me, but then act in doubt, grasp in anxiety, or move from desperation, your declaration is stripped of its force. The law responds not only to what you say, but to what you are. This is why many wonder why their affirmations do not bear fruit. It is not because the law is deaf, but because the vibration is confused. The universe echoes back to you the totality of your belief, not your temporary declarations, but your consistent inner and outer alignment. Your word is law when it becomes your walk, when it is not only spoken with the lips, but proven with the hands, the choices, the steps you take in the world. To bring your words and deeds into agreement is to become whole. You become a unified current of spiritual power, flowing in one direction with no resistance. This is when your life begins to shift. Doors open not because you demanded them to, but because you match the vibration of open doors. The law of cause and effect cannot be fooled by pretense. It recognizes only substance. Substance is formed through agreement, when word and deed dance in harmony. A person may declare healing with their voice, yet cling to sickness with their habits. They may speak of peace, but continually stir the waters of conflict. They may affirm wealth and then walk in lack-minded behavior. This is not spiritual discipline, it is spiritual sabotage. The universe is not withholding, you are dividing the signal. Mixed energy produces mixed results. True consistency then begins not in frequency, but in agreement. It is better to speak one truth and walk it faithfully than to speak 100 without conviction. When your words and deeds move together as one, they call forth power from the invisible realm. You are no longer whispering your desires, you are becoming them. Your life becomes a sermon without speech, a declaration in motion, a living affirmation. This is why every spiritual act must be grounded in material action. Faith must walk. It must pay the bill, make the call, take the step, or bless the challenge. You cannot declare the presence of divine order and then act in confusion. You cannot affirm trust in divine timing while forcing outcomes. The law sees the truth of your being, not just the surface of your voice. It reads vibration, not volume. To live in agreement between word and deed is to walk in spiritual integrity. Integrity is not moral superiority. It is energetic coherence. You become one with your intention. The scattered pieces of doubt, fear, and contradiction fall away, and what remains is pure signal. It is this signal that the universe hears. It is this signal that moves mountains and calls unseen forces into visibility. And the soul who lives in that agreement becomes an instrument through which divine power expresses itself. Force is not harshness. It is focused faith. To force yourself to be consistent may sound severe to the untrained soul. It may bring to mind images of strain, rigidity, or unnatural effort. But true force, spiritual force, is not born from struggle. It is born from certainty. It is not a violent pressure, but a focused channeling of energy. It is not the crushing weight of discipline. It is the holy command of will aligned with spirit. In the realm of truth, force is not harshness. Harshness is the tool of fear. It pushes from anxiety, from lack, inner disorder. Harshness seeks to control because it does not trust. But true force, the kind that brings divine demonstration, comes from a different realm altogether. It does not push, it directs. It does not strive, it instructs. It does not scream, it declares. Force in the spiritual sense is the unwavering movement of faith made visible through action. Focused faith is spiritual command. It is the soul choosing to walk through fog as though it were sunlight. It is the quiet insistence that the invisible must take form, not through panic, but through precision. When you force yourself to remain on the path, to show up again and again in the face of delay or uncertainty, you are not punishing yourself, you are practicing the law. You are instructing the universe that you will not be moved by appearance, only by truth. The outer world often mistakes softness for kindness and firmness for aggression, but the spiritual path reverses this. True kindness is found in discipline, and true aggression often lies in indecision. When the soul is pulled in 10 directions, when desire is spoken one day and forgotten the next, the spirit becomes scattered. There is no manifestation in scattering. The soul must be gathered, focused, streamlined. This is the role of spiritual force, to call all your energy back from distraction and aim it like an arrow toward the mark. You may feel tired. You may feel uninspired. You may feel that the world has not yet responded to your declaration. But focused faith does not rely on mood. It does not wait for motivation. It moves regardless because it already believes. This is the holy force that breaks barriers, not through brute strength, but through consistency backed by conviction. You do not need more effort, you need more direction. You do not need more force against the world, you need more force within. When you rise in the morning and choose again to take the next faithful step, no matter how small, you are wielding spiritual power. You are not acting out of pressure. You are acting out of alignment. You are saying to your own soul, we do not need to feel ready. We only need to move in the direction of what is already true. This is the discipline of the masters, the focus of the prophets, the calm persistence of those who bring heaven to earth. Force becomes damaging only when separated from purpose. But when it is infused with vision, when it is fueled by divine right knowing, it becomes unshakable clarity. It becomes a lighthouse. You no longer ask if it's working. You no longer check for signs. You act because the action itself is a prayer. The step itself is proof of faith. The repetition becomes ritual, and the ritual becomes power. To force yourself is not to betray your softness, it is to protect it. It is to build the structure that allows your intuition to rest, your creativity to flow, your soul to stretch into its full measure. Force does not mean harsh discipline, it means sacred direction. It means you no longer negotiate with doubt. It means your actions are no longer optional, but ordained. Focused faith is not loud, it is steady. And that steadiness moves the unseen. Every step taken in faith magnifies results in the unseen realms. Action is not measured by size, but by substance. One step taken in pure faith, though it may appear small in the outer world, carries immeasurable weight in the spiritual realm. It is not quantity of effort, but quality of alignment that determines the speed and scale of manifestation. When a step is taken in faith, true faith, it does not echo, it resounds. You are not asked to complete the whole journey in one day. You are only ever asked to take the next step. And when that step is taken in obedience to truth, in trust of divine timing, it calls invisible forces into motion. Though you may not see it at once, though the outer evidence may seem unchanged, the spiritual field has already begun to shift. For every action taken in faith is not an act of trial, it is a signal of belief. And belief is the architect of reality. There is a great illusion that still lingers in the mind of many, that unless something grand is achieved, the effort is wasted. But in spiritual law, what appears small is often the seed of the miraculous. It is not the magnitude of the act that matters, but the presence of divine intention within it. The widow's mite, the simple gesture, the faithful morning prayer, all are mightier than the noisy efforts born of fear or pride. When you take a step from your center, from your inner yes, you do not merely move forward, you multiply energy. Faith is a magnifier. It takes what is placed in its hands and enlarges it. A single spoken word of truth, when charged with conviction, has more power than 1,000 repeated in doubt. Likewise, a single step taken with faith can open the way where none appeared before. For the law responds not to your desperation, but to your certainty. The moment your step says, I believe, heaven responds with, so be it. Many wait until they feel ready, until signs appear, until the stars align. But spiritual maturity begins when you act while still uncertain in the natural mind. Faith does not wait for clarity, it creates it. Each step you take becomes a declaration to the universe. I trust what I cannot yet see. That trust generates spiritual substance, and that substance becomes form. You are not trying to make things happen. You are allowing the law to do its work through you. One of the great teachings of truth is that motion generates momentum. The soul that waits for perfect conditions will remain in spiritual stagnation. But the soul that steps forward, even trembling, activates divine movement. There is no shame in starting small. There is only danger in standing still. Every step walked in faith is an act of agreement with divine will. An agreement releases power. Not because the act itself is powerful, but because the alignment behind it is. You may not know the full path, you may not see the end result, but when you take even one aligned action, writing one line, making one call, speaking one truth, you begin to stir the invisible currents. You step out of fear's paralysis and into the rhythm of divine flow. You become not a wanderer, but a walker of sacred ground. Each act compounds. Each repetition strengthens the bridge between what is and what shall be. Even the invisible steps count. The choice to bless instead of curse, to stay silent when tempted to speak harm, to keep going when the reward is not yet in sight. These are spiritual movements, just as vital as anything accomplished with hands or feet. Faith does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers yes in the silence of the heart. And yet that whisper, when acted upon, becomes a roar in the realm of spirit. Inconsistency breeds chaos. Consistency creates miracles. There is a rhythm to the universe, a divine current that undergirds all things. It is steady, unshaken, constant. Stars hold their places, oceans obey the pull of the moon, seeds bloom in season, not by accident but by alignment with perfect timing. Everything in divine intelligence is ruled by order, and where order reigns, peace follows. But where inconsistency takes root, confusion enters, and with confusion comes stagnation, misdirection, and delay. Inconsistency is not merely a habit, it is a disruption of spiritual frequency. It is the breaking of alignment between the inner command and the outer demonstration. When the soul shifts its focus again and again, when it affirms one day and questions the next, when it plants and uproots the seed before it has taken root, it sends out a scattered vibration. And the law cannot respond to a fractured signal. It must have clarity. It must have certainty. It must have continuity. Spiritual law operates with precision, not emotion. It does not favor drama. It responds to the one who knows and walks in knowing, not once, not twice, but continuously. The miracle is not only in the faith-filled prayer, but in the consistent alignment of thought, word, and deed over time. Miracles are not rare exceptions. They are natural outcomes of spiritual law rightly applied, and consistency is the activator of that law. The soul that is inconsistent walks in a circle, revisiting the same doubts, restarting the same efforts, questioning the same truths it once declared with passion. The path becomes tangled, not because the promise was denied, but because the signal was never sustained. To live inconsistently is to remain at the starting point, holding a divine map, but refusing to take more than a few uncertain steps. But the consistent soul walks forward, even when the path is quiet, even when the outer world has not yet reflected the inner decree. They keep showing up. They pray again, they write again, they build again, not because they see the result, but because they trust the process. This is not blind persistence, it is spiritual obedience. It is the understanding that what is aligned must manifest, and that consistency is the proof of belief. To be consistent is to agree with heaven again and again, regardless of mood, weather, or delay. It is to create a vibration so steady that the universe has no choice but to conform. You become a tuning fork for the miraculous, not because of force, but because of frequency. The spiritual field responds to repetition, not the empty kind, but the kind that springs from conviction. Inconsistency clouds the channel. It introduces doubt, hesitation, and confusion. But consistency sharpens the line between intention and outcome. It trains the mind to follow truth rather than fear. It rewires the nervous system to expect alignment, not chaos. It builds a foundation that no storm can shake. Consistency is not simply doing the same thing. It is becoming the same vibration. It is stability of spirit, not sameness of surface. When you become consistent in your belief, consistent in your declarations, consistent in your devotion, the world around you begins to stabilize. People respond differently. Opportunities find you. Energy flows where there was once resistance. What once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You have moved from wavering to unwavering, from scattered to focused, from chaos to order. It is the same with nature. Rain that falls once may soften the earth, but rain that falls again and again nourishes the seed. The harvest does not come to the occasional sower. It comes to the one who wakes and sows, wakes and waters, wakes and tends, not out of desperation, but out of knowing. The miracle is not the single act. It is the consistent presence behind every act. Miracles are not sudden interruptions in the natural order. They are the natural result of alignment held over time.